It's time to cook with Susan Beck. Today we are going to make marshmallow peanut butter fudge. We are going to use a heavy saucepan for this, as well as all of our candy ingredients. For our marshmallow peanut butter fudge, we will be using 2/3 cup milk, a pinch of salt, 2 cups granulated white sugar, a 7-ounce container of marshmallow cream, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and a cup of peanut butter. We'll use a candy thermometer today to tell us when we're ready to add our second half of the ingredients, and we will spray our 9x9 pan before putting the peanut butter fudge into it. I'm going to begin this candy making process by adding my 2 cups of sugar and my 2/3 cup of milk to my heavy saucepan, which I will then turn to about a medium-high heat at least to get started. We need to get this pretty warm because we want to rise on our thermometer all the way up to the softball stage, which is anywhere from like 234 to 238 degrees. Mine's marked specifically at 235. You get a little give and take in there, but not too much because we don't want this to get to a hardball stage where the candy is more of like a butterscotch. So we're going to need to stir frequently, as we do with almost any candy that has this sugar type base on the bottom of it. And into there, I am going to add just a pinch of salt. I don't know, maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon, because I just think a little bit of salt with the sweetness just really adds something. It makes all your taste buds just taste a flavor. So I now have my sugar mixed in with my milk nicely, but it's definitely very crystally still. We don't want a grainy texture when making fudge, and that's the thing that people have the most difficulty with a fudge recipe, is that you can still taste those sugar crystals. And same with the marshmallow cream, we're going to want to be sure that is well melted in there, all of that. We're starting to get some bubbles around the edge of the pan. That's good. We're just going to keep stirring. It's so easy to burn a sugar base like this. If you do get any scorching where it burns on the bottom of your pan or the side of the pan, it's all right, just keep going. But when you go to put this into your 9x9 pan for cooling, don't scrape the sides. Keep that scorched, burnt part in the pan and just enjoy the rest of it. You won't lose much, but it is a common problem, even if you've made candies a lot. Now I can see the crystals seem to be dissolving quite a bit there. It doesn't seem nearly as runny. It's starting to come to a bit of a boil there. An estimate on getting to a soft boil stage, if you don't have a candy thermometer, would probably be at least 10 minutes. Again, I have this at medium-high heat. I'm going to put my thermometer in and see where we're at. Looks like we are approaching 140 degrees, and as I said, we want to get to 235, so we need to raise this temperature another 100 degrees almost. Now, as you can see, I'm getting some color changes. It's starting to bubble. If you watch my homemade caramel video, I will talk about that color change as well. This is a chemical process going on anytime we have a color change. So I can see on the side of my pan where it's getting more golden. And if I don't get that worked in now, I'm going to want to just leave that and not do a whole lot of scraping there. Okay, these are the only ingredients that I'm using right now: the sugar, the milk, and that pinch of salt. I don't want to add my peanut butter or my marshmallow cream at this point. You may have noticed I'm choosing to use a wooden spoon for this. I do have a spatula handy here that I use to measure out my peanut butter, and I will use that when I go to put it into the pan. But this gets very, very hot as I'm cooking, so I really don't want to use that rubber spatula. A wooden spoon works much, much better. And as I stir, I'm really trying to wipe the sides and then run my spoon across the bottom of the pan in a zigzag motion and back in that, crease where the sides meet the bottom of the pan. Just try to keep all of that from sticking too much. anytime you're cooking with sugar things and it does burn on, keep in mind that it is a sugar, so hot water really does help a lot with the cleanup. This is very sticky, even if you don't burn it, but it will just melt right away with your warm dish soap. Let's check our thermometer one more time. We are at 220 degrees. And as I mentioned, it'd probably take 10 minutes minimum to get it to that softball stage if you don't have a thermometer. So we've definitely not been recording this for 10 or 12 minutes yet, so you can see that it'll take a little bit longer to reach that 235 softball stage. Stir, stir, stir though. We have a rolling boil going now. Seeing a little bit of yellowing to this. Just a pale yellow. We are very close to that softball stage. We're at 235 degrees, so we're going to remove our candy thermometer and get ready to add our other ingredients. I have turned the heat off and I'm just going to stir this with my wooden spoon. So I have a teaspoon of vanilla, 1 cup of peanut butter, and I will use my spatula just to push this off the end, but again, I talk all the time about my adjustable measuring cup and how great it is for sticky things. It would also be great for the marshmallow cream, but since I'm using the entire 7-ounce container, no need for that. My rubber spatula works just fine. Now I'm going to want to work fairly quickly here as I do this. At this point, you would not want to walk away from it. In fact, that's one of the things about candies is you've really got to just stay in the kitchen and stick with what you're doing, watching for those color changes and those temperature changes. And then now that I'm to this point of it, I cannot really let that softball sugar mixture sit. It's time to get the marshmallows and the peanut butter dissolved in there. Now this is going to be a pale tan color, mostly due to the marshmallows. They lighten up that peanut butter color, so if you've had just a peanut butter fudge, that would probably have been a bit darker than this. I used the creamy peanut butter. I don't really want the peanuts in this. I don't know, I guess peanuts are not my favorite nut, and so if I wanted nuts, I'd probably use something else. But if you would like nuts in it, there would absolutely be nothing wrong with using the chunky peanut butter. All right, everything is well mixed together in here. I'm going to be putting it into my 9x9 cake pan. We'll begin by spraying the cake pan. And then without letting this cool too much, we will quickly put it into that pan. Starting out with my wooden spoon to get it out, but I am going to end up switching over to that rubber spatula again just so that I can get all of it in there. Clean off the wooden spoon first. Candy sets up fairly quickly. That's why we can't wait very long. Where like if I was making bars, I could walk away for half an hour, come back and put them in the pan. All right, the last step will be to spread this out in the pan so it reaches to all of the corners, and then to leave it to cool. By the time I finished cleaning up the kitchen, I found that the fudge was pretty well set up. You can kind of tell it's ready if you can put a knife into it, and it doesn't ooze all back together. So I'm just going to cut a little square out of the corner here. Check out that texture there. It's nice and light and fluffy because of the marshmallow. Peanut butter is kind of a heavy texture, but you add that marshmallow to it and it just lightens it right up. A little bit like my peanut butter pie that I have posted a while back, where I folded in some whipping cream and it just lightened this heavy, almost like cookie dough batter into a really nice pie filling. So let's just give that a taste. so creamy and smooth. And as you practice and get better at making fudge, that's what you're really looking for, is can you get that nice delicate taste without tasting all those sugar crystals. One last thing, to store your fudge, you really don't want to put it into the refrigerator. You'll lose the texture of it as it dries out in there. Nice place to store it are in tins if you have any of these. Hard to open sometimes. Put them in there, but it shows you how nicely they can seal and keep it airtight. So, great idea if you're going to store it. Sometimes it doesn't last long enough to need to store it very much. Enjoy.